just have the weight of the gravity. That's what does it.
It's hard to get into Michael Corleone's head. I mean, he was such a creature of the time that he lived in.
Okay?
The father did what he did to protect his children. Then the child grew up and did what he did to protect his children, but got himself into a moral quandary. So he's worried that he's somewhere between the past and the future. And he says, no, it's too late for me. You know, time has passed me by.
I was already hired as Michael. They kept saying, well, when is he going to do something? While we were shooting, there were hints coming back to me that I wasn't wanted. And it was more than hints. People were actually, giggling when I go on camera. And the studio kept seeing this footage coming back, and they said, well, he sort of, he seems dull.
The first Godfather was just like nonstop anxiety and, wondering when I was going to get fired. And
we had 2 kids, and I was pregnant with a third, and it was kind of a horrifying time because it seemed like at any moment the whole thing would collapse. And
I remember once being in the men's room, and some crew members came in and they were talking, what a piece of junk, and that guy doesn't know what he's doing.
No one knew when you were going to be fired on that first movie. And so the thing is, just get enough footage in the can, Keep going, keep shooting.
When I look back at the pleasure of it, it's I guess the pleasure looking back is the thing. That's the pleasure, that you're able to look back and that you survived.
During the first few weeks of Godfather 1, I gained a great deal of respect for him, for what he had to go through, what Paramount was putting him through with a second director following him around. In case he was fired, you're out, this guy goes right in. And that's a fact.
When I hear people talk about how they've liked some of those films years later, or that they were wonderful films, all I can think of is, well, I wish I'd heard it then, because I could have sure used the encouragement.
And when I think of the Godfathers, I think of Michael in that hat, walking along the gravel. That was a real turning point. Remember when Carlo is being garroted in the car, and he does, and then afterward he walks, and he walks with the 3 guys. That's the image for me.
See, Michael was so wrapped in the fact that he was right, that what he was doing was right, that it blinded him and it blinded his heart. In other words, was I so sure that I was right that that's why he says, did my heart betray me?
This time, don't say give one more chance. Just say give me the chance to redeem myself, if you can remember.
See, anything that could show Michael really turning on himself.
Can we go?
I mean, the guy is really worried that he maybe is a bad man. Finally, he's torn between good and evil. I mean, he is literally torn apart. Maybe he's talking about one thing and then
I think when Francis and Mario get together and start talking about this subject, anywhere near it and around it, it's still in them, and there's something that stimulates them about it. And, Francis is a good example of that saying, man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? I had heard about 3 throughout these years, but Francis saying he was going to do it. But Francis is funny that way, he'll give you little hints about things, and he'll give you a little hint, and he throws it out. He says, I don't know, maybe I'm going to do this, but then they want me to do this, and then you say, uh-oh, he's planning something. That's a couple of years before it happens, too.
Well, one of the things he does that's so brilliant, 2 months before we started this film, he brought the cast to Napa Valley, to his home.
I'm interrupting you. We would like to rewrite this scene.
And to his little studio on the outskirts of San Francisco. And we sat around, we read the script, we talked, and he's brilliant at it, brilliant.
No, I understand, but it still is the end. I mean,
But we got to do that step first before we can do that. We're going to have 4 hours of emotion, but it's going to all happen in 4 minutes because I have many things to resolve. I have you, I have the other one, I have the other one, and it all has to be like one great emotional thing.
Yeah, but it's like, how does it end? How does it end? I mean, is it...
on C, take 4, A and B cameras. Have a party, folks, and background.
Hey, have a lot of fun.
This last film is more than a number after a title. It's not Godfather 3. It's the continuing saga of this Corleone family, of this march through life that Francis is investigating.
And the warmth of Fredo.
What's the trouble between you and Mr. Joseph?
Just trouble. I'll take care of it.
It's foolish of you.
Foolish of me? Things a little foolish of this guy, don't you think? Right?
Vincent.
Right!
Temper like his father.
When I finally did Godfather 2, I tried to end it, and then I felt, well, it's over, basta, and went on my way, and then I kept hearing, oh, they want to make another Godfather. I said, well, that's fine to want to make it, but, you know, about what? I pretty much mined the emotional material of that family, and it's not like other kinds of sequels where you just then, like Sherlock Holmes, drum up another adventure.
Francis never said no to me, which encouraged me, because I always kind of thought that there is going to be a moment in time when he is going to want to do it.
I said the only Godfather film I would do after this is, you know, Abbott and Costello meets the Godfather, you know, and you have the Abbott and Costello and, hey, Abbott, the guy is over, you know.
We talked to actors like John Travolta, Sly Stallone. I mean, it took all kinds of permutations.
And, of course, they were all thinking, well, Michael would have a son and he would go on and et cetera, et cetera.
It became a Las Vegas story, became an Atlantic City story in the casinos there.
But for me, the tragedy of The Godfather, which is the tragedy of America, is about Michael Corleone. By the end of Godfather 2, just like America in that period, Michael had become wrapped in kind of self-righteousness and just distrusted everyone and
Getting more and more like a you know, paranoid person, like a Nixon.
There's no doubt that there's a thug sort of lurking somewhere in Michael, but something that he doesn't really cater to or admit to. And even if he does admit to it at times, it's not something he's comfortable with.
Don't ever again give that kind of order. Not while I'm alive. I command this family, right or wrong. It was not what I wanted!
I think one of the reasons Francis was ready to do this third film is that he really did have something he wanted to say, something about a man in his middle age looking back on his life, reflecting on his successes, on his failures, reflecting on his mortality, reflecting on his family and what he would be leaving his family, his heritage. And these are things that are very much on Francis's mind now.
In Godfather 3, the difference is that Michael, who is looking for a kind of redemption, his tone is rather than conspiratorial, it becomes confessional.
The thing we're asking for is the very thing that the film is asking for, is to be able to get closer to his feelings. You know, that he's such a insulated guy, Michael Corleone.
He's so more disgusted with himself than another guy would be.
So then the question is, if he did all these terrible things, maybe his heart gave him up, maybe his heart didn't protect him. He wanted to always do murder. Did he jump to the murder solution too soon? Michael Corleone has a conscience, and he's in pain because now he sees that wherever he goes, death follows. And this old man is only dead because he tried to help Michael Corleone. Everyone is dead in his wake.
For me, the toll booth scene is inspired by Dean Tavares's and Arthur Penn's work in Bonnie and Clyde. Kurosawa is the father of all violence in modern movie. Kurosawa via Arthur Penn and Bonnie and Clyde and Sam Peckinpah. So there is a
a certain way to treat violence, this more gory way that really comes ultimately from Shakespeare.
How many takes? One. Yeah, I had 147 squibs on me.